As a result of changes in technology, this is now possible. The ability to support a heterogeneous environment is rapidly increasing. The reason this is so important is that historically, a lot of companies have sold to that CIO, sold to that centralized procurement person. We think that's not the strategy for 2010. The new strategy is you win the consumer first, and then you win the enterprise as a result. Here's a nice example. I don't know if you can see this at the back of the room. That's a Microsoft presentation, and somebody's using their MacBook to present at it. I kind of have a hunch this wasn't authorized by the IT department, but no, it's true. Apple support the whole Microsoft environment. They run on x86 processors. If you want to plug, no, 3 years ago, you wanted to plug the first generation iPhone into a Microsoft Exchange network, it didn't work. It does now. So we think this is a profound transformation, and the idea of selling to consumers rather than just to CIOs is an important change. So this is, I don't know if you can see, that truck that's gone off the edge, it's called reliable trucking. So when as Deloitte, I'm going to go, I assume we've got somebody from Bell in the room, right? Probably? Yeah. Hey, person from Bell, let's sign up a telephone contract. The default assumption is 5.9 reliability. 99.999% of the time, whatever I buy from you, whether it's a phone or a software service, it's going to work 99.999% of the time. In other words, in a year, it's down for 5 minutes. That's pretty reliable. That's pretty amazing. I love that. Is that going to cost me anything extra, do you think? So let's talk about what we mean by reliability, and I'm going to talk about it at the consumer level so that I can then get to what we mean maybe at the enterprise level. Back when I lived in Montreal on West Island, I grew up in Pointe-Claire, we didn't have cable, I think. We had a phone line, and the phone line was 99.999% reliable. And that was great. But if a tree fell down, we have no phone line. We have no way of getting in touch with anybody. This isn't very fun. In 2010, I would have the tree fall down, my phone goes down, and okay, I'll just pick up my cell phone. Oh, unfortunately, there's a cell phone problem too that day. Okay, I'll use my cable hookup and I'll use Skype. The funny thing is that all of these technologies, like Skype, like Twitter, why do people use personal computers? Personal computers, the fabled Microsoft blue screen of death there at the bottom. Why do people use PCs? They're much less reliable than mainframes. Why do we use Cisco routers that are only about 99.9% reliable throughout the internet? The answer is that if you take thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of 2.9 or 3.9 reliable devices, but you network them and you have alternatives, I can in fact make a network that's 12.9 reliable at less than the price of a 5.9 solution. Over and over, companies in 2010 are going to talk, have a conversation with their IT and their telecom providers, and they're going to say, I'm not sure we need to pay for 5.9s. What can you do for me on pricing with a 4.9 or a 3.9 solution? And this transformation is one that's going to affect corporations, but even individual users. I am now willing to tolerate lower quality of service because I have so many different backups. On to the next form, and this one is directly connected with what went before. Cloud computing. You actually did use the, it's funny, you probably, I mean, you're tired of jokes about this, but it is true. Nowhere else in the world do they call it l'informatique de dénouage. I was in France and I said, so how do you say cloud computing in French? And they look at me like I'm an idiot and they go, cloud computing. So what is cloud computing? And you can't have a discussion of cloud without discussing, giving a definition. This is from the US National Institute of Standards. This is, I think, one of the better definitions. It is a model for enabling convenient, on-demand, networked, to a shared pool, rapidly provisioned. If I want to download some pictures to my computer, I have to go buy software, and I buy a license, and I put it on my computer, and then I take my pictures and I load them onto my computer, and my hard drive is full, so I need to go buy a bigger hard drive. Or I set up a Flickr account, and I download all my pictures onto the web. They're all backed up there, and if my computer bursts into flames, I don't care. It's all out there in the cloud. If I want to add another 1 million pictures overnight, they've got the servers. It's not me who has to build the greater capacity. So this idea of taking all of your software and moving it from a license that resides on a machine you own and moving it out into the cloud is a big industry. How big? We project that in 2010, overall global economy growth is going to be what, 2–3% this year, hopefully. IT spending, about the same, 3, maybe 5%. Cloud computing, we are projecting will grow 50% in 2010. That's great. That's fabulous. Let's talk, there's some examples, by the way, Gmail, Skype. Salesforce is the great enterprise example. Just so you know, before I get a little deeper into this, there are a lot of very complicated, sophisticated IT issues around cloud computing. This is not the venue for those. But if you want to have a conversation with any of the various flavors, whether you're talking private, public, hybrid, multi-tenancy, SaaS, PaaS, all of these things, Deloitte, not only can I talk about, but as you can see down there, there are 2 documents we have. The one on the left is a little more general. The one on the right, which is out of our Silicon Valley practice, is 35 pages long and has tons of details. So if you want to have a deeper conversation on cloud, please go ahead. What's the tricky bit about our cloud computing prediction? Because lots of people are talking about it in 2010. We think it's going to do very badly at the enterprise and the government. There are a lot of concerns out there. You may know a lot of Gmail accounts were hacked last week. Big concern about security. Now, cloud's going to figure that out, but in the short term, enterprises and governments are looking at the ability of security, the problem with reliability, and thirdly, very importantly, portability. If I've got all my data out there in the cloud and whoever's providing that service to me goes bankrupt, where does my data go? Who's in charge of moving it to another server? So for those 3 reasons, we think government and enterprise are not quite yet ready for cloud computing. On the other hand, who is? Small businesses. Small businesses and individuals. We see of that growth in cloud computing, it will primarily be driven by often advertiser-supported individual consumers and small enterprise growth. So things like Google Docs, yes, but many, many more of these. We think this is the growth area. So if you're a cloud company and you're aiming for the enterprise, I think you got to focus at the lower end, and you got to be aware. And this is always a great story. A company I knew, I met them, and I talked to them about their solution. And I said, you guys, you're a natural for cloud. You should be doing everything, software as a service. And the CEO said, I know that. He said, I tell my customers that. I say, please, don't buy the license. Don't make me ship a disk to you. But still, 90% of his customers buy it as a standard license model, even though they could save money by going cloud. Anyway, there's a lot of resistance out there, and we don't think 2010 is the year it goes away. This one is a buffet slide. This is a funny one to talk about in Canada. As you may or may not know, in most of Europe, the pricing environment for data plans for your smartphone is very similar to Canada. You sign up for a plan. There's usually a cap somewhere in the area of 5 gigabits of data per month for a mobile device. For a landline, usually there is no cap, but sometimes there effectively is. Meanwhile, in the United States, of course, the default, you may be familiar, is what's called all-you-can-eat. Absolutely, truly unlimited data usage on any mobile device. This, of course, as we talked about last year, is leading to incredible mobile congestion. But what we see going on is, as a result of that challenge in the United States, we are actually seeing the carriers, with the assistance of the regulators, are pushing back, and they are starting to move away. Both Verizon and AT&T in the US have both floated the trial balloon of moving away from all-you-can-eat to metered pricing again. Now, the reason this is getting the regulator involved is that when the carriers tried doing this without the regulators, the consumers went nuts, and they actually sued. They threatened to sue if you change the pricing plan. But the problem is that the regulators are looking at the carriers, and because the networks are breaking, the carriers are doing what's called traffic management, throttling, bandwidth shaping. The only problem is that once you give that power to the carrier, let's see, if I were a carrier, if I could slow down somebody using Skype over my network, and I could claim that was traffic management, that would be kind of fun, right? Maybe I can charge people for going to YouTube. And that's a violation of what's called network neutrality.